everybody, and welcome to the lifting. Today is August 18th, is it?
19.
August 19th, 2020. And we are going to do a show today, Chris and I, that we are actually going to call The Glory of Truth. It's an interesting, topic to talk about. We've always said before, the truth is the truth until a new truth comes along. And what we feel is that we're all in the midst of gaining more information that is probably going to change some current truths that everyone seems to have held dearly near and dear to their hearts. For some, it may be a few. For some, it may be many. And we really just kind of want to have that little bit of discussion today. So we may or may not actually have any galactic join us today, just to let you know, because, most of this it's talking about our feelings and our perceptions regarding certain truths, more so than asking someone else their perspective. And then things for you guys to take and reflect upon as well. One of the things we also hold near and dear to our heart is the goal of being authentic about your own self and your own personal feelings. And so this actually all began with a conversation that Chris and I were having a couple nights ago, when there's been so much that has occurred, and it's been going at such a fast pace, to really kind of just sit down and reflect and be able to state your current feelings about things, and your perspectives about things that are going on all around you. And sometimes it's a good idea to just kind of write that out for yourself to, get an idea of everything. And again, one of the things that we always want to acknowledge is that if you're having to come to some new truths, new belief systems, you always are going to have to mourn the old ones. So one of those things, again, why this is such a hard time is that for many people, they're having to mourn a lot of different things in order to accept some of those other new truths that are coming out. And again, one of the biggest things that's important for all of us right now is the foundation of our experience, what's really going on, the uncovering, the unveiling, so that you can really see the truth of the existence that you're in order to, potentially make changes to put things in a direction that you want, or we as a collective want to see. So again, we're going to call this the glory of truth. And basically, we always like to do affirmations and blessings too. Sometimes we don't, but we wrote down a few today. So, beginning the first affirmation and blessings to all that are out there. Now is the time more than ever to ask for the truth of your existence to be known, instead of the reaffirmation that you currently know it all. Be brave and allow the curtain to be pulled back. You will have the strength to see all. So that's how we'll begin. And Chris, I'll let you get started.
All right. How I truly feel about what is not only going on in the public now, but what is going on with us right now. For us, 2020 has been a series of heartbreaks, trials, tribulations, and heart-wrenching realizations about who we know, what we thought about certain galactics, and how we perceived ourselves and the world. This year, I, Christopher Stephen Jacobs, have found out far more about myself than I ever truly cared to. From all the years in the SSP to all the years of being a paranormal investigator and psychic, I have found that in all areas, there has also been both deception on all levels and wonders that were hidden in plain sight. From finding out that I was only a fake hero for the MyLabs and SSP to find out who Michael and Metatron truly are. From losing family to watching old friends become society's plaything. There has been no time for mourning, no time for peace. It may seem as if all is well within the Jacobs household, but it has been anything but. From people unknowingly entangling us in their problems, to people intentionally sending curses our way, to people praying for our immortal souls. We have seen it all this year, and in great abundance, I might add. However, ironically enough, abundance has been the thing that we seem to see a cap on. We see both people in business ventures we support falling prey to this scam and becoming part of its narrative, not ever knowing or feeling they are actually that they may actually be workarounds to both business and energetic pursuits. What I mean is certain, say, pursuits that we were involved in have fallen prey to the scamdemic, let's just say, and they don't seem to want to find workarounds for this. They don't want to seem to find a way to keep things going. They just flatlines, and it seems that people would rather flatline this than to find workarounds. And it seems that I know of these workarounds, but don't have the resources to implement the workarounds, as well as information being capped for us as well. There has been where others skirt on past us using the same information as us. We have to endure the onslaught of psychic attacks from both military and alien sources alike because we don't agree with, nor do we obey what I refer to as the yield. I think and feel I speak for a lot of you when I say no more to this, and many other things that are happening both politically and energetically alike. From finances to jobs to politics, the game ends here. Also, please stop invoking our I am presence in your spells and incantations. Stop calling on us in your sleep to fight for you. This is your guide's job to do this. This drains us beyond belief and opens the door for continued harassment and torture. Yes, we do get tortured by outside sources like military and aliens. And also, I'm going to add a bit of an addendum to the curse thing. And this has been popping up again. This goes back to the bad effects of good intentions. This is a recent thing, even as of today, just prior to us doing this. It was found online, and this is happening mainly online. There are these righteous people that think this goes outside the Christian thing. This is more goes into witchcraft spells and incantations, but it's still the same premise. They're trying to save you. They try to lay a curse down on you. They try to send things to you, thinking that you're doing the evil, and they're going to stop you from they're going to save you, or they're going to try to stop you by sending stuff your way, so that because they think you're doing harm to the world by not saving the demons you fight instead of killing them or exterminating them or transmuting them, whatever you want to call it. And they think you're doing evil unto others when in fact you're clearing the slate for humans to evolve in a better way.
And this kind of goes along with the affirmation and blessing, because in all honesty, again, because you know a little of this, because if you reflect, you can probably say, I was probably more like them 10 years ago. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what we're trying to say is that people who are opening spiritually and realizing that they can move energies and do things like that, they may get to the point where they really do feel they're at the pinnacle of what a person can do. Now, we've said this over and over and over again. If you actually feel you're at the pinnacle and you've got it all going and everything is clean in your closet and there is nothing else and you're really there, there's probably some deception going on by a being who wants you to feel that way. So one of the things about guides or whatever is that your own limitations that you put on yourself, and people who do that actually cap themselves. They're at the pinnacle, so there's no more to do. So they won't do anymore. They're going to be there. So if at that pinnacle they have not opened themselves, that maybe there could be malevolent guides, and all they believe in is benevolent guides, then they're not going, then it makes it easier for something that maybe isn't good for them to appear good.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe it's good. And so one of the things that have happened to some, trench workers is when they can see that someone isn't actually dealing with an authentic, genuine, benevolent guide, and their belief system wants to hold that guide there. And if there's any attempt to try and show them differently, just like other things, instead of opening yourself up to maybe there's a bigger truth, it's going to be slamming the door. And not only are you trying to be deceptive to me, you, Christopher Stephen Jacobs, or somebody like you, you're actually switching out and putting an evil person there for me to see that you're calling my guide, or blah, 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 because people will get stuck in that place, that cap that they've now put themselves in, and they've kind of built a box for themselves that there isn't an expansion available. So those people are currently there's a lot of them out there.
Yes.
And so again, yeah. I have a little bit of grace, and you actually do too, for that, because you don't even understand that there may be something contributing to your mindset that you've now reached the pinnacle of something, because they don't want you to grow anymore. So they like you right where you are. And so again, as the affirmation and blessing was saying, you have to have the courage to, instead of assuming you're on top and just wanting, really what you're wanting is affirmation to just kind of make you still believe you're on top. What you really want to do is just open your mind for the truth to be known of the existence around you. And you shouldn't even give two, if I said, instead of wanting affirmation to saying you're the pinnacle, if you change your wish to be, I just want to know the truth of what is, then why would that be so hard to do? It's going to be hard to do if there's a lot of pressure for you not to grow. And where's that pressure coming from? It will be hard for you to actually say, my heart's desire is to know the existence around me. I want to see what it really is. You will be hard pressed to actually even put that out there if you've capped yourself. So I just want to say that, and a lot of people have, and thus it's actually one of the reasons why, Chris, you call yourself a trench worker. It's one of the reasons actually why some trench workers never try to let themselves be known, because
for this reason,
for partly for that reason, because of and another thing about these people who feel they are ridding the world of an evil person like Chris or like somebody else, they don't even recognizing that they are sending spells and incantations. They don't even understand in saving the world from somebody the dark magic that they just crossed into, because they're calling this a justified thing, and they don't even see that they are actually now themselves crossing into curses, dark magic, things like that. They don't even see what they're doing for their righteous cause.
Yeah, they think they're defending themselves. Here are a couple of examples. One happened this morning when I had to defend against a woman who thought I and Surinder were in the wrong for trying to correct something that this person was doing. And this was, I could even see her bilocated self. I can see when people show up. When they bilocate, I can see them walking through the wall. I can see them connecting to me mentally. I see all of it. So if any of you out there are listening to this and you are doing this to me, I see it coming. So just to let you know that. And I saw that this woman was saying, oh, you don't have the right to do this. You're practicing dark magic, and this was somebody that thought they were a 10 when they were a 1. I'm not trying to be arrogant when I'm saying this, but this was the attitude. This was the arrogance coming off of this person. And that person's name went into our protection jars we have in the other room that I set up that capture different thought forms and spells. It might not get every one of them, but it sure can get them from specific people that you put in there. And it's a form of shielding. And needless to say, this was stopped and the person didn't do it again. And it happens with different people online. They think they have the right to scan you and thinking like, oh, I'm getting a weird vibe off of this. Granted, have I done this? No, but I've only done it when attacked. I only do it when I get a really ugly vibe off person, a genuine ugly vibe, not because I might not agree with what they're saying. There's a difference. There's another one here, a couple of them. Somebody we met at one of the psychic fairs, and he decided that he was going to get jealous because he wasn't making as many sales as us, and he was right across from us. So what happened was I kept seeing, again, him in my head. He was sitting maybe 15 feet away, and I could see him in my head, yelling at me, trying to fiddle with my energy. And I warned him to stop a couple of times. He was messing up my sessions. And even if somebody is, say, a level 30 and you're, say, a level 70, a level 30 can still mess up the ether around a session and disrupt it. What he was doing was, he was messing up that ether. He was doing exactly that. And he knew what he was doing. I could feel the focus come from him because he physically was staring right at me. So what I did was I blocked him. I did what I call brain spiking. That's a defense move of mine where I just envision spikes, going into their head and stopping whatever thought forms are coming out. I don't pull that out very often. Don't usually have to, but with him I did, and ended up stopping him from doing that. And he was actually jealous because he was making less sales than we were, and he was just butthurt. Another one. Here's a very, very good example of how people can actually think that they have a guide behind him, and it could be a reptilian, let's just say. Of negative reptilians. There are positive ones out there, not of the Draco variety. We were at another psychic fair. We were just there monitoring, and I could see somebody giving a session to somebody. And I could, just out of curiosity, I do go to these things. I do troll these things every now and again, folks, just to check to see where people are at overall. And I find things like this when I look around. And this person was giving a reading, and I could see this white Draco and several green ones standing behind this individual. And I could hear the individual. They were quite loud. I could actually hear them speak through the crowd. And they were giving a channeling on, and I could see them leaning back and listening to what these reptilians were saying. The reptilian, the main one, would bend down and whisper in the person's ear periodically. And like, oh yeah, my guide is saying this. Oh yeah, my guide is saying that. And then the reptilians noticed me and just looked over. And that's when their heads came off. I didn't want them coming back to the house. Well, then I heard the person say, oh, the channeling cut off. I don't know what happened. And folks, you got to look at your guides a little bit better than this. Just saying. Well, then that person noticed that I was sitting out in the lobby, further away, line of sight, and I could. This person contacted me telepathically and went, "Oh my God, you killed my guides! Why would you do such a thing?" And then proceeded with 2 other people to send psychic attacks my way, folks. I wasn't the attacker in that case. If any of you from that show are actually remotely even listening to this, you gotta look at your guides a little bit better than that. You gotta pay attention to what's around you. You gotta discern what's coming through. You gotta discern the vibe. You gotta know what's around you. If the place is clear enough to channel. I've learned this lesson the hard way myself. It sucks. But you got to get over that hump if you're going to actually be helping people. You got to get over that hump. Because when I visit these fairs, I clear the room. Of any beings I don't recognize that have a negative vibe, they're gone. And I'm not sorry if it's somebody's guide that's been deceiving them for a few decades. They're gone. And I have to have the space clear for me with the level of work that I do. And I work on a multitude of different levels than some of these people do. And that's not me gloating, that's just a fact. I operate differently than some of these people do. Deeper, more in depth, and I cannot have those negative beings around me.
Because they know you're there and
they know I'm there. They come right for me. My light shines a little bit differently than some of the other people's do there, and these beings come straight for me, so I must clear the room in order to be able to be around the crowd of, say, a psychic fair or a crowd somewhere. I have to have the room clean. And that goes the same for home too, but I have to have a clean environment. So any other channelers out there, if you're doing any of these fairs, or if you're doing this privately at home, please check the beings at the door that you are talking to. And I know I've recently dropped some bombshells myself, even within this same recording, and also on our Patreon. I've made some mistakes myself, but I take the time to actually really look. And I'm not saying some of you have not.
No, you just have to really now more than ever, you've got to be open to the possibility that the truth you knew in the past may not be actually helpful to you now, and you just put out the desire to see the truth as it is.
Yes.
Without any preconceived notions that you've currently carried, to open yourself up for the expansion so that you can get more information and to discern more and to learn and grow more. So, again, this isn't meant to be a harsh judgment, but let's call it the glory of this truth that people, need to understand is that in the chaos of all of this and all of these energies going on, you have a lot of people feeling that they must hold on to certain foundational belief systems that they've had because they feel they'll be so lost without them. They've been programmed to believe they'll be so lost without them that they'll hang on to them, even if it starts to cause really problems between maybe themselves and other humans around them. They'll hold on to the belief or to the guide or to the whomever to the detriment of other people around them who may be saying, are you sure you're seeing this correctly? And so in the chaos of everything going around, that's one of the truths that's going on, that it is chaos. And it's chaos because of the truths that people are still trying to hold on to because they have ritualized certain beliefs to feel that it is their foundation. And that foundation is actually an illusion,
and it's crumbling,
and it's starting to crumble. Yes. But they're hanging on. So that's one of the glorious and gloriful truths that people have, got to be brave enough to open themselves up to, and not be afraid that you can't handle it, because you actually can. There's a lot of effort being put out there to make you believe you can't. And so, you're just going to, again, as we say, it's going to be a moment where you just really have to be brave.
Yeah. This you really have to have a level of bravery when it comes to this, because if you think it's all going to be rose petals, no, it could be a whole road of glass shards and glass fragments evolving. And especially, say if you're someone who has relied on their guides 100% for years, let's just say, and you suddenly realize that several of them in the whole pantheon of them never had your highest good at heart, but yet they still taught you something. Yet they still, in effect, did their jobs, so to speak, even though they were evil, because they actually helped you break free of the whole dependency. There was some aspects to myself in there, but I have noticed that in some situations, again, not dumping on any of my fellow psychics, but I have seen that time and again, They say they are doing something when in fact they're just calling in a guide to do it for them. They're not actually doing it themselves. They're not performing the magic themselves, let's just say. And it is coming to pass that you have more than ever before. When we've said this is the age of magic, not necessarily just the age of the sword, it's the age of magic. It's passing over to that. Also, that means in some of the negative aspects too, where you get magical warfare that is going on right now. Not just technological cabal versus white hat or anything like that. It is a magical war that is going on right now. Think Harry Potter on acid is what is going on right now in the background. The wars and battles people don't even realize are taking place. Psychic battles, magical battles, different frequency battles that are going on right out. It could be right outside your window. You'd never see it. And sometimes some of those thumps you hear on your house, they might not just be an entity. It may be somebody getting knocked against your house. I've actually run into that myself, and recently. These things that are going on, there could be not just physical warfare, like I said, energetic.
So one of the other things I just want to point out, because we haven't said this, and I know you want to make sure this is clear. The one new truth, if you have not considered that it is truth yet, that I would highly suggest you consider, is that there will always be greater and lesser people than you.
Yeah.
There will always be greater and lesser people. So again, do not think you're on the pinnacle. And this is actually hard, because even as a culture, let's just use the United States, we're the greatest nation and the greatest people in the world, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you've been told all your life. It's a belief system. Well, what's happening right now is that that's being challenged between healthcare. Really? Our healthcare system is the greatest and best in the whole world? Mm-hmm. Really? Our goods are the greatest and best in the whole world? And why are we getting them from all these other countries? So we're being challenged and challenged and challenged to deal with these truths. But I can guarantee you that one of the things you have to think about is, something that actually goes against what really is probably more of a foundation of a truthful statement, which is there are always greater and lesser people than yourself. Mm-hmm. And that could be, in different cultures and different ways of living. It could be, things like that. But again, if you're stuck at I'm the pinnacle of something, be it a society or be it or whatever, then you've done a disservice to yourself, because you've actually capped yourself and you're keeping yourself from growing and learning. So, and I guess, I wanted to point that out because, you definitely know. And that's been the hard thing, again, for someone like yourself, because, you're having to try and maneuver through looking at things that maybe others have or have not looked at, where you're having to decide, am I dealing with something greater or lesser than myself just for personal protection? What am I dealing with?
Oh, yeah. What kind of being am I dealing with? Entity am I dealing with? And I always measure it, by, there are like certain video games, you see certain numbers attached to different players and different bad guys and things of that nature. And if you're like a level 50, you're not going to take on a level 95. That's stupid. And this is sometimes those skills are hidden. If the wizard, let's just say, is good enough, he's not going to show his actual level. There could be 10 layers behind that you don't know what level that person's at. And I like the quote by Bruce Lee that always seems to stand out to me. He always said he was confident enough to know that he was number one, but he was wise enough to know that he was always number two, and that was to keep the ego in check. That was to keep that arrogance in check.
And then we were reminded today of a very famous lyric: "You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them."
Yes, and some elementals came in and were telling me that with some of the stuff, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. That's the line. And you got to, that's exactly, Kenny Rogers had it right all those years ago. And that still holds today. That line from the Gambler still holds because of the fact you got to be wise enough to know when to walk away, and then also confident to know when you need to go after something. So, and protect yourself that way. And now some of you may be thinking, how can he help us if he cannot protect himself? And that's a fair question. With all the stuff that's been going on, and I want to say I can still do my work amidst of it all, or at least mostly. But bear in mind that we have been getting hit with far more than all of you have. And I am not saying this to diminish anyone else that has been going through anything. However, when you get hit with the edge of time, information, and reality and push for more, it can result in a lot more than you originally bargained for. Be careful what you wish for, folks, including negative, unwanted attention. It falls under the be careful what you wish for category. If you really want to know something, universe is going to make it happen because you're manifesting that. And as we have said before, there are those negative effects of good intentions by those who do not understand what we are trying to do. So they feel that we are negative, and that their psychic skills are attacking them. Our psychic skills are attacking them, and they do that back to us to save the world. And we just got done talking about that. When you get to a certain level, this is something that was very emphasized to us years ago. When you get to a certain level and you've gotten past what some of these other psychics have, when you've gotten past the mark. In video game terms, it would be like the level 50 mark, where anything below it is like seeing like the video game world in a certain way. And then when you get past that mark, it's like everything seems a little different. This is kind of along those lines. They would see you as dark. And here's a very, very good example of this. This happened quite a while ago to us when we were trying to establish ourselves in this area. And we went into a shop. I'm not going to name the shop, but it was in Prescott. And we tried to tell a couple people that were running this shop at the time, what we did, what we were into, what we were looking at. And we figured we'd be welcome with open arms. Far from it. I swear to God, if those people's sphincters had clenched any tighter, they would have shattered. And those people's minds were just blown. And we were barely saying anything. We were just talking about the dream time revocation, for crying out loud.
Because someone was speaking about their dreams and being invaded, and we just started engaging in the conversation and yes, that possibly can be true. And, we've talked about this dream time revocation, and it was really weird because the conversation, in my opinion, we did not initiate this, was initiated, and for about a minute and a half, everything was fine. Mm-hmm. And then all of the sudden, it was the weirdest thing. We weren't necessarily really saying anything that was so far out of their thought process, because they kind of were open to it and expressing it, but something happened. I think in my opinion, what happened is that we really do guard ourselves and I think our energies. And as we were talking and we were engaging in an authentic way, our energies became more open to them. Mm-hmm. And they were picking up on maybe a frequency they didn't recognize.
And it spooked them, and they tightened.
I couldn't believe it. But I was crushed. I was completely crushed. You were kind of crushed too. Mm-hmm. We were both very defeated. We recognized what was going on. We kind of ended and backed out of the conversation, left there, and we're so just utterly crushed because we were so excited to try and build with other people and get involved in this community, realizing that, man, that they cannot just accept and literally the only thing I can tell you, because the conversation wasn't a difficult one at all, it was all I could say is we opened ourselves up and they saw our energy. So I'm sure there was some influencing going on to also cause them to not want us around. There was more than likely influence there as well. A lot of it, but yeah. But it was crushing. So any of you out there that have experienced what we just experienced, we commiserate, because a lot of things that we talk about here, we're not just talking about them. We've lived it. We have lived it, and it will not make any sense. You think you're having a simple conversation, but you're relaxing, and as you're relaxing, more of you is shining through, and it may actually just literally be a frequency that they're uncomfortable with. And there's nothing you can do about it.
No,
I'm just telling you, there's nothing you can do about it. Just recognize that, I wish you your highest good and kind of walk away. And, so we don't have, I will say, the glory of the truth out there now for most people are realizing is, some of the expectations that you may have had, even in the light worker world, it's ready to shine and everybody's ready for me. I think what you're maybe finding out is that may not have been the truth.
That may not have been the truth at all. And you'll notice when people's sphincter clenches up like that, they're going to completely shut down. They're just totally shut down, and it'll be unexpected. You'll say something that's just going to rub them the wrong way in some respect, and they'll fall into that weird catatonic mode. And that's how these two people did. And it was like without warning. Completely without warning, we're having a conversation, and all of a sudden they just shut down. They even started sitting there like this. It was like, okay, not sure what the hell you were hearing and seeing, or not hearing and seeing in some cases, but this is the reception we've gotten in a lot of cases. In this day and age, with all this going on, there's still a lot of inner work to do. Old expectations of self, old forgotten promises surface. From past experiences, or not so benevolent guides. This is another area that I wanted to touch on, because the fact that when we were in North Carolina, we were promised big things when we came out here to Arizona. A shop in Cottonwood, to being able to make multiple sales on items, to getting ingrained into the community. And one by one of those dominoes just kept falling. And this is the deception layers that we're constantly dropping, the different veils that we're dropping, so to speak. And finding out that all I was really picking up on that were exacerbated by guides that did not have our highest good at heart was just different ripples in a pond I was seeing in the future of me, say, touching a building, or us in an RV or something like that. And these were events that had great emotional significance, but it did not mean they were positive. It meant that they were heart-wrenching and propelled us forward. This did not mean that it was something that we wanted. And these guides would promise this, and this is a promise this. And to any person that is just starting out, novice-wise, and your guides are promising anything, take a look at them again. This is something that I cannot emphasize enough. The good guys will not promise things. They might suggest courses of action. You can take the suggestion or not. They don't require you to do it. If a guide is saying you must do this, not good. Discern that message. Saying, is promising you this and this and this, say, even promising wealth, the old promising wealth, that's probably a jinn or a genie of some sort. Get them out of your house. That's they're promising money. If they go straight for the money jugular, that is probably a jinn of some sort doing the whole three wishes bit within the etheric. Just a little bit of a warning there. This has actually happened, old lineage and familial crap services, and so does your soul. Streaming in more information for you to process. Any traits that no longer serve, and you've heard me mention this on Interstellar Council a bunch of times, any traits that are coming through from ancestry that do not serve you, that are not you, like if it's your father's or your mother's or something that you do not identify with anymore or never did. Purge that. Nothing says you have to keep that, even if it is in your genes. Audit that, because it does not belong there in the slightest. It could be, some people call them lineage curses. Get rid of that. It can become an Achilles heel. If you have any, and I mean any skeletons in your closet, get rid of them and do it quickly. Process that shit, and so that you have an existence worth experiencing and a life worth living, instead of reliving old wounds that keep getting exploited. And these dark entities do exploit them. Do it simply or do it loud, but do it because you want to and not because someone else wants you to walk their path. Big one, folks. If a parent is trying to influence you to walk their path, or some other family member, just because they're a family member, does not mean they are correct. It means they are correct for the time they came from and for themselves. Do not fall for scams and fake dangers to your health. You know what I mean, folks. And do not let yourself be won over by your shadows. Hug them and simply move on. I will tell you now that the you that you thought that you knew will cease to exist, and what is left is a raw nerve, one that may be afraid to move forward, one that you won't like or want to face, one that is the truest you hidden behind fear. Face that shit and move on. Don't stick your head in the sand. That's the coward's path. Don't believe every voice you hear and everything you read. See, feel, know, and understand the truth within yourself and know whether or not it is the truth you find or programming and indoctrination that you have been instilled and imbued with by another person or another group. I guess that is still truth found out about you.
So that, again, the glory of the truth. And some people have been putting these little memes on Facebook, whatever, which are actually really, really true. The ones, with the little cat hanging onto the branch who's drenched and whatever, or, being knocked out, with their spiritual journey or whatever. This isn't necessarily the time where you're just going to sit back and, everything is great. You are going to be knocking down some of your own truths, the ones that don't actually serve you. And why? Because we actually want to be on a solid foundation. We don't want to be on a fake one or someone else's fake foundation. We want to know the foundation upon which we currently stand as a person, as a society, as a humanity. We need to know in order so that we can participate in what we want the reality and the authenticity to be. But right now, the authenticity of the foundation that we're all walking on right now looks more like 6 feet of shit than it does any sort of solid foundation. And, and you should be okay with saying, man, it really does look like 6 feet of shit. And I'm like, can't even get up for air, and I'm just swallowing more of it, and it's just coming out of every orifice. Or it is as ugly as I'm trying to make it, that unfortunately is kind of the truth of what everyone is having to deal with right now. And giving yourself the grace to know that you wanted to know the truth of the existence. You wanted to know. Many people do not want to be blind to it anymore, although there are still plenty of people who are so terrified because of their truths leaving. And then what? They will still hold on to those truths. So you just have to, again, this is about being brave and understanding and letting go of truths that no longer serve you, things that no longer serve you, and being brave enough to be able to look at where we really are, okay, versus the fairy tale that we really were and have been a part of, an unreal fairy tale.
Yes, and I've been saying this also for a while. For the love of God, turn off your television and computer once in a while. Don't feel compelled to believe everything you see and hear, especially this year. Don't feel trapped in your home and feel that it is a prison killing you. It is not. And I've heard that many a times, even as a paranormal investigator and as a psychic and doing my work. I've heard that phrase I don't know how many times. Protect your home and protect your body and energy from influences that may make it seem as though your house is not a home. Don't be tricked by promises of a better life somewhere new. Create and become that better life for yourselves, and you will see that better life manifest. Write that better existence and life down, seal it with a candle fire, and never look at the paper again until a year later. One more thing that I would like to add to this, and some of you are going to hate my guts for me saying this yet again. You have heard me speak at length of what we call the Cabal contract with the Orions and other alien beings. People feel as though it will end this year, but I am here to inform you that this November is just a passing of the torch. A big one, but a passing of the torch, if you will, to a new banner, a villain becoming a hero. For all the good that this new would-be hero is doing, it is still the same group. I am not saying good is not being done. There's a lot of wonderful things happening, a lot of unsuspecting white hats. Very good people out there. I just want to point this out. Think about this for a moment. Both Truman and Eisenhower signed a contract with the dark aliens, both allowing our people to be abducted for experimentation and allowing the travesties within the secret space program and the MyLabs to occur. This paved the way for our technological age and that of the threat of artificial intelligence. This contract began in the late 40s and still has at least 20 years left to run out. This includes the fall of the villain and the rise of the hero. Again, good is still done in that time, but there is still a narrative in place until more people see past it. And that is the reason it exists, is so we can see past it. Even if one alien race interferes, the contract is broken long before then. So don't think it's actually going to take that long. Until that time, it plays out to awaken the masses. Remember, everyone, it was a 100-year disclosure. This is 2020, the year of clear vision. The more of a Band-Aid rip than anyone thought that they ever knew would occur, and in the way that they thought that it would occur. Our society problems and atrocities must all be uprooted first before you will ever see and truly know the aliens walking among you. So sit back, get some popcorn, and watch the world burn with the fires of truth and awakening.
So one of the things that, I think I want to point out as far as the glories of the truth again for this year is probably what I consider the end game right now for a lot of people, which is trauma. So trauma. Trauma is something that has been used, you guys know, forever. Let's just think of the medieval ages. The thumb, let's torture their thumbs, let's rack them, let's do whatever needs to be done. Because after enough trauma, the physical body will not be able to handle but so much. And so in order to survive, the will be broken. When we think about some of these other programs, it was always about breaking the psyche of people. So you are still dealing with to the last breath. I'm sorry, we've said this for years. There is nothing that's occurred that has made me think that these people are saying, I'm ready to take my last breath now, and I'm just going to turn this on.
Yeah, these are not the people to step aside. I know these people. I know their mentality. They aren't just going to step aside and go, here you go. No, because again, those people, these ones that we're talking about, you don't even know their names. You don't even know them. You don't know who these people are. But they do know how to traumatize people in order then to allow a moment of breath, a moment of peace, a moment of, just an exhale before they screw the screws even tighter. And things can be done in a way where you're going to be, let me just use the example of all the small businesses that have gone out of business during this time. And the ones that are faced with the calamities now could be, again, I'll just simply say bars and gyms. Because, even if they were able to, a bar, change themselves into a restaurant with only now 30% capacity because they're actually kind of a bar,
and they know they're not going to make their overhead. They know they're not going to make it. So here you have people still wanting to try to live the dream. And if they can actually open again, it's going to be under the guise of a restaurant. The odds of them being able to now make it are getting smaller and smaller because of the limitations that have now been put onto them to be able to reopen. And this is restaurants as well. You know, that more and more of these smaller places are going to close and be destroyed, okay? So you have that going on right now, whether or not you know anyone who's in that position. People are losing everything. We kind of relate it back to the plague time when, you know, you had these middle class people that started to move up right before the plague started.
You started to get a lot of power.
And they were starting to have a lot of power, even more than the regal, some of the regal members society. And then wham, here comes something along to kind of mow them all down. Mm-hmm. It's kind of reminding us of that this is really what's going on right now. However, if you are traumatized enough, okay, then, and you've been out of work and your family is hungry and, you know, your kids aren't back to school and everyone's going insane, you know, and there's no job that you can find to even get out of the house, how are you going to keep the roof over your head? Because now that time's up and they're going to start evicting people, right? All of that trauma that's going on. Then, you know, would you be happy for the relief to see them come up with an idea of a minimum wage that everyone receives?
Mm-hmm. I know. I
it's
would,
again.
Yeah.
So first you have right now the unemployment and the unemployment benefits that, you know, there's this good and bad guys. Shall we keep it? Shall we not? But you're not talking about, you know, again, sure, there's going to be outliers of people that I don't want to work. I want to be lazy. But that ain't the bulk of what's going on. So you have now people that are starting to receive an income to be able to keep the roof over your head. Well, what if, you know, it was decided that in order for the public's health, we need to continue this. We need to continue this. Look, you know, at how we keep certain rates down. Look at all this. We just need to now make this a part of our life. Thus, you will never have some of these things really opening up to the point anymore where if they're small businesses, they'll ever be able to succeed. Okay? You've got to get what's going on. This is the destruction of all of that right now, because if some of this stuff is really, really maintained and not let go, how are these people ever going to make it to really get a profit? They'll be lucky to survive with a minimal staff. It's a destruction going on. And then, you know, to be so traumatized by all that, being you may have been one of those workers or a worker in another place, that, you know, you will be happy and grateful for accepting what's coming your way as far as being able to maintain food, you know, get some food in your belly and to maintain a roof over your head. Thank you for coming along, not realizing all along it was a scam that did it to you in the beginning. But you've been so traumatized by everything that you see it as a benevolence when it actually was never a benevolence. It was just a mechanism to be able to traumatize you to the point where then you would actually accept this and see it as benevolence. And then, you know, maybe be willing to do something else as a, you know, let's call it benevolence. That really isn't, by, you know, ensuring other things are in compliance in order to still maintain the monies you need to live in society, to be able to keep a roof over your head and things like that. So this is where we talk about, again, the reincarnation of, you know, and why there's a now, you know, becoming a villain and a hero, because that's how it's been done. So I have to tell you again, and I've said it before, let me tell you something. Malevolence, it don't really care about anybody. So if you're on malevolence side, if you're on the malevolence team, you like power, you like whatever, you don't mind how you treat people, whatever, God forbid if you're not one of the really top ones. If you're down here, man, they're going to sacrifice you all. They're like, okay, let's get rid of this whole tier of malevolence. The people out there will think that, oh, it must be clear and free, but they don't mind throwing their people under the bus. You just gotta understand.
And people forget this has happened in history multiple times, and even in recent history, with the Nazis. The ones that were at Nuremberg were not, there were maybe a couple of high-ranking people there, but they were all the soldiers that were captured, everything. They were trying to get for crimes against humanity. Where did the rest of them go? Antarctica and Argentina, and eventually did some tests with wormholes and all this other stuff, and eventually ended up Mars, Ceres, and the Moon. So these were the people that you probably never heard of, even back then. And they basically killed themselves off down here, eventually integrated themselves into the United States in Operation Paperclip. And technically the Nazis never lost the Second World War. What happened? You see all these distractions that take place in our country even today. Think of even on a small scale for a moment. Call centers. You call into call centers. What happens? You're treated like crap and you're bounced around everywhere. And it's a negative distraction. Think about like Medicare, Medicaid, all the hoops you got to jump through. Disability. Think of all these stupid little things. The VA, when they do stupid things for veterans, when they do all these horrible things. Do you think that's not planned? Yes, it is planned.
To traumatize you more.
Yes.
Because if they traumatize you enough, you won't get involved. You
Yeah,
want
you
to
won't
stay
get
far away from it.
Yeah.
And you won't actually want to do maybe what would needed to be done in order to get what you feel you're entitled to. It is like that. Court systems are like that now as well.
Oh, yeah. They're all stacked, yeah.
They're all like that right now to cause as much trauma to you as possible, to, all of it just kind of slowly breaking you down to be willing to accept what is perceived as a break, is a benevolence. Now, does that mean there's no hope? No. What it means and what we're desperately trying to help people understand is, what should you not be doing? There isn't a savior. Okay, so instead of assuming someone is the hero saving you, that's where you're now giving your power away to someone else. You shouldn't. And your intention and your co-creative skills to imagine the world in which we're going to live in, the types of people that you want to be able to see, the ones representing you for who they are, and be able to learn discernment so you can actually place people that really are for your highest good, and that you can actually start to see. These are all the spiritual skills of growth that we're talking about. And so if people take the time to work on themselves, to be able to read other people better, these other people aren't going to be able to hide themselves as much, no matter what words come out of their mouth. And so you have the responsibility to look for that and to monitor. What's happened since the 1970s especially is that all this distraction and all these laws were changed to do nothing but protect corporates. Mm-hmm. And so really, it's all about corporations now and their protections, and the people mean nothing squat, except a victim to steal monies from. But you have to understand, and why did that occur? Because we weren't looking. So now, again, don't assume that what's being played out before you is a benevolence coming in, that you can turn everything over to this benevolence is coming in, because you've already done that many times over in the past, where you think the next benevolence comes in and it's just them recombobulated into a better looking, little bit more kind person. And that's what's going to happen. They're going to be literally better looking. They're going to look a little more angelic. They are. The people that are going to be put in front of you, or you're just going to feel are just a little bit more angelic. Mm-hmm. And they have, some of them, great skills of deception. And so, they're upping their game as well, hoping that it counteracts the rise that people are coming in to read people better. So you cannot let that go. You're now responsible for your life and responsible for what goes on around you. And so you have to understand that right now, what's playing out was planned, and it's called trauma is the name of the game, in order to get people. And one of the biggest traumas, obviously, is anything fearful of your life, That's the biggest trauma out there that they can put you through. And so they're going to the basic, the lower chakras. They're going to right to, whatever, forget any higher things if you're stuck down in there right now. And they're going to be able to make themselves appear like saviors of the trauma that they caused. So you've got to be able to start to see through that so that you can discern and you can move through it all. And yes, we are going to be able to still move past this, but you got to be wise to what's going on.
And it doesn't mean that good things aren't going to come of it. People think, because I say these things, that, like I say, I slam the Q movement or anything like that, that I'm suddenly against the saving of children or something like that, which is complete BS. Of course, there's good going on right now. Yeah. Even the phrase "where we go one, we go all," fantastic, love it. But you got to remember, any of the good that's coming this November, you're going to see all that. It's still part of this playette passing over to this other regime. Now, do I think they're going to be here forever? No. I do not, and they're still going to hit that brick wall harder than you ever thought they could. But this will give rise to eventually a Renaissance period, from our perception, a Renaissance period of free everything. Will this start with this Q move? Absolutely. I believe we'll see that within our lifetime. Will we see some aliens? Yeah. Do I believe that? Yes. But remember, everybody, it's still going to be a one world government. That's still New World Order in my book. Granted, is a one world set of laws a good thing? Yes, it can be in good hands. But it's still, think about it. They're in the guise of uniting the planet, but it's still a new world order. So people have to remember that.
Careful. So again, you just don't give over blind allegiance.
Yeah, you don't give over blind allegiance. Question all of it.
Question all of it. Discern it. Put out there. Do not turn over to them because you're busy day to day. Do not turn over to them the vision. Okay, this is what I keep trying to say. Create your vision, see your vision, live your vision. Mm-hmm. If you even start to live your vision of how you want to see people getting along and you're saying, I'm living it now, guess what's going to happen to you? You're going to have more pleasant experiences going on with the people around you because you're not waiting. I'm living this better vision right now. And when you make up your mind that it's now, it will become now. And so again, if you start small, you'll just sit, you know what, that bitch at Walmart actually said hello to me. But I mean, you can create this world that you want. And that's what we're trying to say. Create it. Do not allow others to create their vision because it may not be for your highest good. So if you're awake, you're alert, you're discerning, then the goal is we're going to be able to maneuver this to the direction that we want it to go. Not the direction of a reinvention of others that want it to go in a different way. So yes, it can go either way. The only reason that we're on here talking is because we actually have the belief that we can and we will, and we're destined to actually move it in the direction we want. And we just want to keep cheering people on to learn how to protect themselves, to discern, to wish for their highest good and others' highest good, to understand that there is a negative side out there that's very present, and how to learn to see it and how to learn to protect against it. If we didn't believe that all of these things were possible, we wouldn't be talking right now. We know it's possible, but we know we have to cheer each other on and help remind each other of our own personal responsibility to moving in that direction. It is our individual personal responsibility. So again, the glory of the truth is you have personal responsibility. And many people don't want it, but guess what? There's no other way, and you're going to have to face the fact that you are personally responsible for the world around you. And what are you going to do about it? How are you going to maneuver it? And how are you going to teach your children? And what are you going to do? So you have to understand, and that's becoming more and more clear to people, that they have to move forward in that truth whether they were ready or not. It's being thrust upon them now. So one other thing that I want to bring out about, again, the glory of truth. So probably in this year, there's been in the momentum more and more and more discussion about what we would call the secret space program. It's becoming less and less secret. So here this year we've had, Trump, we've had the Space Force be recognized, as most people already accept that whatever they're talking about, what probably is behind the closed doors that they're not letting you see, is so many years in the future already. So the fact that they're bringing out that we are developing a space program means it is so far already out there that they know how to, that they are going to start finally disclosing in their own controlled way, the potentials of space, because again, it's not going to be able to be hidden very well any longer. One of the places that it's probably discussed on a regular basis is if you actually do watch Gaia, okay, because they have cosmic disclosure, they have a bunch of things on there where they actually talk about a bunch of different things. Now, have they always had reputable people on there? However, but even in the people that are maybe a little less reputable, some of the information we feel that they've talked about is actually correct anyway. So again, you go back with discern the message, not the messenger. The one thing that I can tell you that Gaia has always chosen not to speak about is anything that was very uncomfortable and in a negative light, okay? They wanted to talk to you about, the glories of being out there, that yes, there could be wars and things like that, but this is our glorious capabilities. This is what can be done. One of the things that they have avoided talking about until now, and you and I are a little bit.
Yeah, I was shocked when I heard this.
It's something that we've talked about a lot that is finally being talked about. So we're both sitting back going, we always do this. What's their angle? What's the angle of this? Is this free and clear disclosure? No, we don't think so. So what's the angle of all of this? Again, we always talk about a controlled disclosure. And I think, sometimes what happens is when the public at large and people at large start speaking about something so loudly that it has to be addressed within the public a little bit more mainstream. It has to be brought up to be done, hopefully in a more, let's call it, controlled fashion. So, we fully support a balanced approach to the conversation of the secret space program and to things that have occurred. Now, one of the truths, the glory of the truth, again, one of the truths out there that people have to be prepared for and understanding is human slavery. You must be prepared for this discussion because, again, we've said it before that the back of these programs were not built from people that just willy-nilly said, I wanted to be a part of it. These things were built off the back of people that, in the eyes of the ones pursuing it, were just their slaves. Now, you may have been in a job that you didn't kind of mind doing, but you most likely were a slave if you were a part of it. And again, we've talked about this before. If you were in the top 10% of your school in academics, you were at the minimal looked at, if not pulled into it. And these things go on through family lineages. And so the slavery that actually occurred. And so I bring that out as a truth because, again, I think part of what's going on with the human trafficking and the pedophile and all of the stuff coming out, it needs to come out. Part of it is because there are a lot of people now that were a part of some of these programs that are starting to remember, okay? And they actually don't want them to remember. So let's bring up this other. Let's bring up the Hollywood situation. Let's bring up Epstein. Let's bring up all of this stuff, because maybe we can distract a little longer, and that they somehow will take their memories that are coming in, and they're going to just tie it into how horrible pedophilia is. And we can still somehow control the minds of people from remembering that they were actually involved and were actually slaves to a program out there. I know this sounds rough, but it is all interconnected.
Yeah.
A lot of people are starting to remember now, and some of their imagery that they're having into their minds are not pleasant ones. So, it's very complicated what's going on right now, and it's going to be complicated. And understand that, whatever is going on in your mind, whatever is bubbling up to the surface, whatever dreams you're having, whatever is going on, and if you're hearing or seeking out information on the secret space program, for many it's because they are subconsciously, they know they were somehow involved.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the involvement, again, was not due to, voluntarily wanting to be a part of something. It was about making the best of a situation that you found yourself in, and trying to survive that situation that you found yourself in. And the answers to this, to all of this treachery, have not yet been resolved. And this is still going on to this day. So, that's another big, glorious truth that actually has been coming more to the surface during this year for people. They'd rather it not be true. I know I didn't want it to be true.
Yeah, you would rather the whole sexual slavery and regular slavery thing not be true.
And even the slavery to use your gifts in a way that be it scientific gifts, be it mathematical gifts, be it whatever, that you're being forced to use them in a way that you're trying to find something good out of all of this, but yet you are still being slaved to someone else's agenda, and you're just trying to find a way to survive within this experience that you now find yourself in. So it is complicated. It is not necessarily all pretty. And I can guarantee you that if you did a 20 in the back, they did everything possible to make sure that you were as dumb as a box of rocks when you were brought back in, so that those gifts that you had did not come back with you, so that you would not be a threat to them in this side.
Yeah, there you could have been like as smart as Stephen Hawking. Here, you're dumber than a stump. So it's, but you've been retooled in a different way energetically, and you can still fix things. Is it frustrating as holy hell? Yes, because there were some things I knew how to do there, because they had me testing certain craft or testing certain things. I was technically a crash test dummy there. They had me help on constructing certain things, and I knew how to do them. But then did that mathematical intelligence completely stay? No, it didn't. Conceptually, I know. But they erased the number portion of it, the ability to add, subtract, multiply, and divide properly. That if you don't have that mathematical foundation, they figured you couldn't get the rest of it. It would just fall into the realm of basically metaphysics at that point. Physics without numbers is what metaphysics is usually referred to as. If you don't have a means to calculate certain equations, you wouldn't be able to prove certain truths. That's how they view it, on an engineering or scientific spectrum. And also the fact that they have been lying in the physics texts and all those textbooks for so long, they have a false platform in there. So they didn't want you to remember the real platform and try to slowly integrate the real thing in down here.
Which is why, again, why people call it free energy and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So, but again, what is the glory of this truth? There was one thing that they cannot pull out of you, and that is the innate skill given to you by being in this skin suit, by being and having this relationship with your soul of being a co-creator. Mm-hmm. They cannot take that skill. They have never been able to do it. They do everything to manipulate you from using it correctly, but they cannot take a soul who is plugged into this and take that ability away. That's why they would like to have, people that are now scrambled in the heads to work for them. If you see some of the soldiers that are there on the other side, and they're just certain grunt soldiers, they're not like you or I anymore. They literally become more robotic than they are, even though they may be a real soul, because of the fact that they needed something that would really follow orders and just follow orders and just really do what they're told without fear, versus having, some of these soul components that would, you would have your co-creative skills. So here they have to keep you in a trauma situation, basically, so that you don't utilize those skills in a proper way. So that is the one thing for anyone who has come back. If you are remembering, probably you're in some sort of trauma, you are depressed, you are sad, you may even want to be back there because working with your gifts were more exciting than working day to day to try to keep a roof over your head. I understand all of that, get it, completely understand it or whatever, but they did not take away your co-creative skills. They just want you to think that they have. And they manipulate
because that's
you
impossible
that way.
for them to do. Yeah,
it's impossible. So you have to remember that, and that is what is going to change things when you remember who you really are, the importance of what you really are able to do, and that you actually then realign and become balanced in all of that. And then we propel ourselves forward past some of this stuff, because they cannot take that from you.
No.
Not successful in doing that.
No.
So that is a truth, a positive truth that you guys need to all hold on to, that they would like to distract you from right now and have you pay attention to all this other stuff, is that, we do have the capability, we are who we've been waiting for, and that we do have the ability to be able to do something about all of this, including having the strength to recognize truths we maybe did not want to see, because it's for our best interest to see them, so that we can move forward through the quagmire, to be able to pull ourselves out of it, as long as we choose not to give away our free will again, because we've done it before. So that's pretty much all I have to say, I think. So we look at it, be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself about how you feel.
Yeah, exactly. Be honest with yourself and what is coming up. These memories and these feelings and everything, they're legit. And sometimes you may have, even while there, fantasized about being something different, and even what you were going to do to these people, like I did when I got out of there. No, that doesn't apply in that way anymore. That was based on in that moment. And what you're actually here to do is actually create a new standard and actually co-create differently here. So because when I was there, from what I remember, I first I couldn't tell the difference between what I visualized and imagined there and what the memory actually was. Now I know any of the heroic stuff that popped into my head there was actually fantasy, because that's something that I was using as a coping mechanism.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with coping that way. I just want you to know.
No, there's nothing wrong with imagining at all. And if you want to write a story where you're cutting all their heads off or something, fine, cool, do it. Yeah, great. Do that. I encourage that, because that vents that whatever trauma you're going through, having been through that, if you went through anything like that out there. In the Secret Space program, and we will actually touch on more of that here in the future. When I always say, when I get more of the marbles in a row, then I'll be able to. I've been documenting, as I've been bringing memories back of what took place back there, and I have at least, I would have to say, maybe 40% of it, at least the earthly stuff. Anyway, so I will give more when I know more in that area. But I think we've gone on long enough today. And also, we haven't turned the light on here, and the sun's setting outside here. So I believe we're good. You can read the last affirmation and blessing.
Okay. This is, remember, you are the heroes of your own life. Discernment and authenticity of desires will guide, shield, and protect you along the way. Never be afraid to become who you are. And that's it, guys.
And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching this impromptu episode, The Glory of Truth. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.